Welcome to Blaise the Trail podcast, bringing you authentic and vulnerable stories that will inspire you to breathe fire on this world and become your own hero. Here's your host, Blaise Hunter.
Hello, welcome to Blaise the Trail podcast. I'm Blaise Hunter, and I am a fertility expert. No, I don't help people get pregnant. This is a different type of expertise. I actually inspire women to birth their dreams, passions, and goals, as well as discover peace amongst infertility. After going through traumas and tragedies, dealing with a rare disease, and experiencing 3 miscarriages, I decided to take charge of my life and not let life happen to me, but rather become the hero of my own life. I am not barren. I am continually birthing my purpose every day. So that's why I've created this show, to demonstrate how even though we experience setbacks and disappointments, we still have a destiny to birth. We just need to blaze the trail and be expecting. This podcast will inspire you to lean into your problems and allow them to be the vehicle that transports you into becoming the hero of your life so you can breathe fire on this world. This week's topic is about the friend zone, and some key points that we'll cover is that usually the friend zone is a negative thing, but today we're going to talk about how it can be a positive thing and geared towards addressing tips and tools on how we can make friends as adults. We will get reflective surrounding our fears around being vulnerable and creating connections. And I will share some insights and personal experiences about this subject. I am a published author, an international speaker, fertility expert, and certified life coach. My coaching practice is based on the quote from Fred DeVito: "What doesn't challenge you doesn't change you." I want to challenge myself and the world to take off those masks and get vulnerable and real so we can address root issues and grow. That's how we can transform into the best versions of ourselves. So we're going to dive right in right now and talk about the friend zone. Like I said, it can have a sort of negative connotation because to most single people, if they're interested in someone, they never want to be filed off into that friend zone. They want to have that option open of letting that friendship grow into maybe a relationship. But you hear all the time, oh yeah, they friend zone me, whether it's guys or girls. We've all been there. I've been there, and I've done it to guys as well. I had no idea that some guys were interested in me, and I totally put them in the friend zone. And now I look back as a married woman and be like, wow, I think they were interested in me. Too funny. So whether you are looking for the Thelma to your Louise or a bromance, it's actually quite difficult to ask for friendship, to search for friends and to make that connection of a true friend as older as we get. And I know that's tough because when you look at kids and I look at my daughter, she makes friends instantly. She doesn't even know kids' names and they're instant friends. And I look at that and I'm like, why is it so easy for her at 6? And I find myself as older as we get, I notice for myself, for other people in my life, that making friends is actually quite hard to do. So that's why I wanted to do a show about it, to really kind of peel back those layers of this taboo topic that we don't really talk about, that it's actually quite hard to make a friend. And so I'm going to give you a little bit of my backstory. I didn't have a lot of friends growing up. I have these memories as a kid. I went to a small school. In my grade, there actually was more boys in my grade than girls. I was actually the only girl. It was like the year of the boys for 1981. And that was a big struggle for me. I have memories of going to my mom every night being like, I don't have any friends. I don't have any girls that are interested in what I'm interested in, and they're not my age. And I remember my mom at like 10 years old praying with me at night, being like, God, give Blaise a friend. And, if I had that with my daughter, I would just be so, empathetic and sad, because friends enrich our lives. They add to it. They create so much laughter and support and connection. So it's so important to have friendships from as being little as a kid to growing up in your 20s and your 30s and your 40s, and then also when you get older into your 60s, 70s, and 80s. We all need friendships. So like I said, I had struggles developing that friendships when I was younger. And then I felt like I got some glimpses. Like God just threw people in my life when I was super lonely, and they were so impactful. When I needed somebody in my life, they just showed up. And it was really amazing to look back now and having these little moments of pure joy and friendship and connection. And the thing I had to learn as an adult, looking back on that, I was a lifer. I still consider myself as a lifer no matter what I do. I don't look at things as seasons. And that's something I've had to adjust my thinking on, is that I thought if I'm going to be your friend and you're going to be my friend, we're friends forever. And that's not always the case. That could be the case, and that is a really special thing to have. But that's not going to happen with every person in your life. They're not going to be in your life forever. So when I had a season of a friendship and then that season ended, I took it harshly. It was devastating for me because I wasn't prepared for a season of friendship. I was prepared like, you're my friend until the day I die. And it doesn't always work like that. People change, people grow, people move on, people move. We go in different journeys and paths, and we have to be accepting of that, accepting for ourselves and accepting of other people. And a big thing to note here is that in any friendship, we don't own each other. And I think we get lost in that. There's ownership there, like you're my friend, you're my best friend. And there's some definite, things that we can learn from that and dissect that. I really have a problem with the term best friend. A, because that probably triggers me that I didn't have a best friend a lot of times in my life. But B, whenever you go around somebody and they were like, oh yeah, such and such, they're my best friend, it kind of creates exclusion to me. It's like, oh, if that's your best friend, then who am I? Or who are the other people in your circle if you're singling one person out as your ultimate friend? It really creates distance and exclusion. And I never want my daughter to say that is my one and true best friend and no one else is allowed in that sphere. Because yes, you could say that's like one of my best friends, because it's just changing your language just a bit and allowing room for other people to enter in and not feel excluded. And I've really challenged myself, even when I do get some sort of a really good connection with one person or two people, that I don't refer them as my best friend. They're one of my best friends, but they're not the one and only, because I never want to exclude, because I've been excluded. And I have felt that. And yes, I'm a softie and a sensitive person, but I just want to make sure my words don't hurt, that my words don't cause someone to go home and cry and say, I don't have a friend. So really be mindful of that, what your language is when you're referring to different friendships to other people. It could hurt people. And it's just about, you want to create friendships, you don't want to create divides. So that's a little bit of my backstory. But then I had some incredible women come into my life as a young age, and then going into college and getting into the workforce. And it was just amazing to look back being like, yeah, when I was down and lonely, someone just popped up in my life and really picked me up and carried me through the next stage in my life. And it was just amazing to have these glimpses and these deep connections. And I really am thankful for those people in my life that taught me so much, that brought a different side out of me, that I could bring something to them. And we created a loving friendship, whether it lasted a year, whether it lasted 10 years, or whether it lasted just a season and it's over. And I can look back and be like, I valued that. That was an amazing connection to have. But saying that, I've been a lifer, and that I never thought friendships could have a season or expiry date, that was a big lesson to learn. And I think the biggest one was a friendship that I had, that she was my best friend, and I did feel almost ownership in that friendship. And then one day, we had just been drifting apart and going in different directions in our lives. Nothing happened. There was no major fight, but she broke up with me. She literally said, we're not friends anymore. and never has spoken to me again. And that broke me, to be honest. It was like going through an actual relationship breakup. That was the longest relationship I ever had, whether it was with a boyfriend, my husband at the time. I had been friends longer with that person than I was with my husband, even before we were married. So there was a big length of time in there. That was a deep connection. And what I found out about myself as I was dissecting the grieving process in all of that was that I think I had a real big codependency on that friendship. My self-worth, my identity, everything was caught up in that friendship. And so when she was no longer in the picture and something happened in the day and I couldn't text her and I couldn't call her, I didn't know what to do with myself. I really relied on that person so much for me, for my mental health, for someone I could bounce things off of, to share things with, to experience things with, and then it was abruptly gone and not by my choice. It was a really hard lesson. And I had to learn, like, going forward, what can I take away from that I can apply in the good to a next friendship? And what could I learn from to not do going forward in another friendship? And really learning that I've got to stand on my own 2 feet, and I've got to have self-worth, and I've got to be able to just have someone add to my life rather than rely on them for things and support. I've got to support myself. I've got to make myself happy. And yes, you are there for people when they need help, but they're there for you when you need help, and you're not always down and needing other people to pull you up. It's a give and take. And I think I was in a really big taking. And that was a big lesson for me to learn and take away from that friendship. And there was a time where I was very angry and then broken and confused and grieved that a lot. And it is okay to grieve a loss of a friendship. There is a grieving process, but it's how you move forward from that. And I had to dig deep and just move forward and allow myself to open up to other possibilities of friendships that maybe I was closed off to because my sole focus and energy was on this one friend. And I really thank her for that. It's not any more ill feelings towards her. It's like, wow, that was it for a time and a season I needed her. And for some reason, we needed to end ways in our lives, and that was okay. That was the season. And just allow yourself permission to say that's okay in this moment. And whether it's a lifelong friend or someone that was just in for a time, really examine that, learn from it, and be thankful and have gratitude for the time that you did have with that friendship. It's such a beautiful thing that you had something with somebody that created that closeness and that connection. And maybe you just needed that in that moment of your time, and maybe they needed that in their time of their life. But I found going through different moments and stages of my life, whether it was in college where I had great college friends, but then you go in the workforce, you move, you're all over the place, then you get married and your partner is really your best friend, and you know, you're having that time and creating that closeness with your partner, but you still need outside friends. You still need girlfriends that, you know, you do girly things with, or you do stuff that you're interested in with, that takes your mind off other things in life and just gets having some fun and lightness. But then I became a mom. Oh my goodness, that was definitely a struggle for me. I became a mom when I really didn't know many other mothers that were in my sphere. I didn't have any friends that were having children at the same time. I had one work friend having a baby, and we did create a bond just because we were pregnant at the same time, and that was my one friend. And I'm like, I need more in the bullpen than one friend, right? And I was going through such a hell with a cranky, colicky baby that never slept for like 3 years. I kid you not. I'm not even exaggerating here. And so one time when my husband and I were walking with our crying, fussy baby, she was probably about 3 or 4 months old, and we just had never slept since the day she was born, and all we could do was walk in the stroller to get her to calm down. And we came across a street right by our house, and we saw two other moms walking their babies, and they were both girls, and we kind of stopped and oohed and awed and said, oh, hi, how old is your baby? And we realized our three girls were born within 2 months of each other. So that was pretty cool. And they left on and started walking in different directions, and I just stopped my husband and I said, oh my God, moms, watch where they go into their house. What house do they live in? I'm going to be a total stalker right now. I need mom friends. He was just looking at me. But I seriously looked. I was totally crazy stalker person here. I watched both of them go into their houses and remembered which houses they were. And then I went home and I thought about it for about a week. I'm like, how do I actually make a friend? I don't know these women. I don't even know their names. I know where they live, but I don't know anything about them. But they have children the same age as my daughter, and I need some connection here. I need mom friend. So I got up the courage to come up with this harebrained idea. I thought, back in the old days where you baked a pie for your neighbors. So I kind of took it from there and thought, you know what, maybe I can make a cheese ball. My mom's great at making cheese balls. I have her recipe. I might make a cheese ball. And I'll write a little card saying, it was good to run into you that day on the street. So cool, our daughters are all the same age. I included a homemade headband for their girls. And I said, if you're ever doing a coffee date or a play date, please let me know. I would love to join. And I finally got up the courage to do this, and I literally one day knocked on both of their doors and dropped off a cheese ball and basically said, will you be my friend? I was in my 30s. I know that's pretty lame, but that actually was pretty gutsy. And so this one mom friend, the one that I gave the cheese ball to, her husband was like, okay, this could go either really good or really bad, because now you might have a stalker that knows where we live. But I give so much credit to myself for taking that leap and being vulnerable and just asking someone to, hey, will you consider being my friend? But then I give massive props to the other mom who did one day, maybe a week later after dropping off that cheese ball, she called me and said, hey, I'm having a few moms over for a cup of coffee with our babies. If you care to join, you're welcome to come over. And I did. And that started a beautiful friendship that is still ongoing 6 years later. And I'm just so thankful for that. So they still call me Cheese Ball, actually. That's my nickname in that mom group. And the other one I did drop off the cheese ball to, she's in that group as well. And we've been lifelong friends since that moment of the cheese ball. So there's something that you can do. It really is about, putting yourself out there. And that was my breakthrough moment of creating a really amazing friendship, was me being vulnerable and having a cheese ball moment. And so I encourage anyone out there that's wondering, yeah, easy for you, blah, blah, blah. You're outgoing, you're an author, you're a speaker, you're good at this. No, I have my moments too where I'm not good at this. It is a vulnerable part of yourself to say, hey, will you be my friend? Sometimes it organically happens, just you're out and you meet at a similar place, whether it's an exercise class or, mutual interests, and it just strikes up a conversation and boom, you're friends. But it doesn't always work like that. And if you're a mom or if you're busy working, you're not always in those spheres to get friendships organically. So you might have to seek them out and do a little bit of work as well. So after those initial breakthroughs of creating some friendships by me being vulnerable, it was amazing what happened next. It was like I opened the door and said, hey, I'm welcoming new people in my life, new friendships, and I'm willing to keep an open mind for people that want to be friends with me. And it was interesting. I went out with another friend for her birthday. We were out for supper, and she had other friends that were there that were in her circle, but I didn't necessarily know. And I sat beside this one lady, and we just giggled the entire time at the restaurant. And we had mutual love of food, and we're such foodies, and we just giggled and laughed. But I had never met her before. And that was it. We said goodbye. I didn't think anything of it. We didn't exchange numbers, nothing like that. It was just, that was the end of our fun night together. But, a couple weeks later, she got my phone number from the mutual friend that had the birthday party. She called me. She was like, hey,
I don't know if this is weird, but, I had such a great conversation with you and a great time with you at that dinner party. I was just wondering, will you go on a date with me? Be my friend? I'll pick you up and we can go shopping. And we did. And that is another friendship that's still ongoing. And she took massive bravery and balls, basically, to call me out of the blue and ask to be my friend or to be her friend. And I just, again, give her such mad props for that because, wow, that was bravery. That was vulnerability and action. And I applaud that. And I'm encouraging you. If you're in a place in your life and you would like to expand and have some more friends or have a friend, it really comes down to you creating that space of vulnerability and allowing connection. Because if you walk around everywhere with a wall up and you're thinking you want a friend, but you don't know how to open up, you're really having a big Post-it sign saying, back off, I don't want to be friends. So you've really got to do the work and first ask people how you come off. Like, are you approachable? Are you looking like you're timid and shy? No one wants to talk to you. Are you making some sort of effort in your own unique way that opens up a door or a pathway to create a connection? And it is something I have learned. It wasn't natural to me. Like I said, I struggled as a kid. I struggled into my 20s. And all of a sudden I realized in my 20s, if I just am myself, and if it's not about me like making friends, it's just about me creating connections, and I'm connected with myself, and I want to learn more about people. Ask questions. It's a great pathway. It's a great doorway to create a friendship. Ask a question, and don't ask, what do you do for a living? I'm encouraging, my friend spoke at a conference about this. She's like, stop asking people what they do. Ask people what they're passionate about. What inspires them? What brings them joy? And it's such a unique conversation other than, oh, what do you do? Oh, I'm a stay-at-home mom, or I do this, or I'm an HR, or I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, right? Like, is that your interest area? Maybe that's your career. But what are you passionate about? What are your interests? Like, as a friend, I want to know about your interests. I don't care that your job doesn't define you. I want to know who you are as a person, what lights you up. And it's just an interesting way to create a conversation with one another of what are your interests. And so, like I said, I had to learn that, and that is my experiences. And I have learned now and mastered the art of creating friends because I really got vulnerable with myself. And it's amazing. I go anywhere, and this is a tried and true tested method of just being vulnerable, because I'll walk in a room with somebody else that is not as open or vulnerable or connected or looking for any connections, and we'll meet the same person, and that person will serve them a cup of coffee or help them in the business or wherever we are, and it's just like, thank you very much, pleasantries, yep, really nice, blah, blah, blah. I'll walk in like 2 seconds later and strike up a conversation, and within minutes, she's telling me she's having a really hard day because she is breastfeeding. She just got back to work. She's having anxiety. She doesn't know what to do with this breast milk, and her breasts are hurting, and she's just having a really anxious day because of all of these flooded emotions and hardships and reconciling with going back to work and leaving her baby at home. And we left the store, and I told my friend this. She's like, how do you get people to open up to you like that within seconds? Like, I was with her for half an hour, and I'm like, you know what, gosh, I think it's just because I walk in there completely unguarded and completely open to hear somebody's life story, to hear somebody's, inner feelings, and then I meet them. And I love how Brene Brown words this. It's not like you walk in and you tell everything, your deepest, darkest secret, and your verbal diarrhea of all your vulnerabilities. It's a process. It's one layer, one brick at a time. So you give something a little vulnerable and see if they match that with you. If they don't, that's okay. Maybe that's not a connection. Maybe that's not something that you're going to, investigate or get connected with right now. Maybe it's down the road, or maybe it's never. But you build that one layer and see if they match it. And it is amazing when they match it. I just had this yesterday. I met a total stranger, like someone I met at a networking event. We decided to meet up for coffee. She shares a bit. I shared a bit. She shared more, I shared more. We both ended up like the coffee meeting crying because of how connected we were. And it was an hour-long coffee date. Like, it wasn't like this big trip that we went on. It was magical. And that's what I'm trying to get across is like, you're going to develop deeper connections depending on how vulnerable you're willing to be. And that's a big challenge for people because we walk around masked up and not really wanting to share our vulnerabilities. But that's what makes us connected, is sharing that and sharing our hearts with one another, not these facades and masks that we think everybody wants, the perfections, that there's no flaws, that I've got it all together. No, it's just being real. Whoever you are, the unique, beautiful person that you are, it's just being real. And I encourage that for men as well. My husband has that. He worked on the road a lot. He struggled having friendships just because he wasn't home on weekends to go out with anybody. So it was a struggle. But I think like when he finds somebody that is interested in the same thing as him, it creates a safe place to be connected, to be vulnerable. And it's a magical thing to have, is that connection and friendship. And I really want that for everyone, to have that friendship. And it just creates such a unique and rich part of your life. Having no friends is no fun. It's better to have these amazing different personalities and people you can draw from and learn from and get energized from them, and you listen to them and you give your unique giftings and vibrations to everybody else. And it's just such a beautiful thing to see. Also, I'm going to see here, I'm going to point out something. When friendships come and go, and you think, oh, that sucks, I really wanted to be friends with that person a long time, then you just have to put a period there and say, that was for a time and it was beautiful, but it's okay that it ends. And don't put a question mark where life has put a period. Just be like, thank you for that amazing glimpse of time where we had a great connection. And if you want to come back in my life, my arms are open. But for right now, we'll put the period on it. And that was such an amazing insight as well. What if someone wants to be your friend and you don't feel it? You feel like they kind of drag you down. You're not really into the friendship, but they're like, let's do this, let's do that. And it's okay to say no. This was hard for me. I was like, how could I say no? Isn't that rude? Isn't that mean? Well, are you just like being kind of a jerk about it because you're scared of opening up to another person and getting hurt by a friend? Or do they actually drag you down? Maybe they're not good in their life and adding to yours. Maybe they're constantly taking away and you've got nothing left to give in your life. And it's okay to dissect that. And it's okay to say, you know what, at this time, I don't think it's a good idea to be friends, but I wish you the best. And, maybe down the road, but not right now. Thank you. That's okay. And that's not mean. It's how you say it. And it's your why. Because if you were just doing it to be rude and you didn't want anyone in your group and be excluding, then that's not right. But if it's somebody you feel like, oh man, I just don't get a good feeling, they seem to drag me, it seems to be a toxic energy, and I need to focus on self-care right now, that's okay to take care of you and say no to a friend. You don't have to accept their friend request on Facebook. When you're going through something in your life and someone becomes toxic in your life, you don't have to follow them to prove something. You can unfollow, you can defriend and not be rude or unkind or a bully. It's being aware of what that relationship is doing for you. Is it adding or is it taking away? And it's okay to unfollow, even for a season. I don't unfriend some people, I unfollow them. So I'm still friends with them on Facebook, but I don't have to see anything. And then it doesn't charge me or get me all triggered when I see a picture on Facebook or something, right? So it's really about both ways. You can have the friend zone and you don't have to be friends with people. It's about being honest with yourself and with others rather than being fake kind. Why is it when we run into people that we haven't seen in a long time, and we chit-chat, we talk a little bit, update about our lives, and we end it. Especially for me, I always end it, oh, well, we should go out for coffee sometime. How many times have I said that? When I don't actually intend to ever go out for coffee with that person. And it's nothing to do with that I don't like them. It's just like we don't connect. And yet, I can't just exit being like, okay, have a wonderful day. I have to go further and say, we should go for coffee sometime, when I clearly know I never will. So I'm trying to challenge myself not to say that if I don't mean it, because I feel like that's rude to say that when I don't actually consider being friends with that person other than acquaintances when we run into each other at the odd place. So it's about being reflective. It's about being honest with ourselves, honest with other people, and that is a big start to being vulnerable and allowing openness and connection to happen. It's such an interesting dynamic here about friendships as adults, right? And so we really need to just put ourselves out there and, ask people out as friends. Ask if you're doing that, I'm interested in that. Do you mind if I take along? Practice your wording. Sometimes people will be like, nope. And you have to accept that and walk away. And you're going to probably have a cry or feel hurt, but that's okay. You tried. I give you applause when you try. It's when you don't try that you'll always fail, because you've never even got out of the start gate, right? Like, you've got to try, and I would rather you try and fall and massive proportions than you never try at all to make friends, because the guarantee you'll never make friends unless you try. And another thing to note here, if anyone ever says, no, I'm good, I don't need to add anyone to my circle of friends, I'm good. Like, I would really question that. I had this good conversation with this gentleman a couple days ago, was if someone says something like that, pose it back to them and say, well, what does that say about you? Make them answer that. Because if it's because one person is toxic and they don't want to allow them in their life, that's one thing. But I call bull crap that people say they have enough friends and don't need any more. Bull crap. I call it every day, because that signals to me someone is scared of getting hurt, scared of putting themselves out there, putting the work in, and maybe it doesn't work out. So they're going to wall that up and just continue on with the few friends that they have. Or it could be that, again, there's ownership there. I've had people in my life where they had a friend and they didn't want that friend introduced to other people because I think they were scared of that friend being taken away and not their best friend anymore. And that's huge codependency. That's huge ownership. And I've been guilty of it. I've experienced people taking my friend away. And it sucks. I'm not going to lie. It does suck. But they're never yours to be had. It's never yours to protect. Either they're in your life or they're not. Either they're your true friend or they're not. And maybe they are for a time and they move on to somebody else or something else. And that's okay too. You've got to be your best friend. And that way, you're not owning anybody else and dictating whether they can go and see somebody else or do this or do that. A friend should never be doing that to you, and you should never be doing that to someone else, because that's not true friendship. That's not unconditional love. And there's really something deeper going on there, and that's playing on maybe our insecurities and our fears and our own flaws, and we're taking them out on our friendships. A true friendship, true connection that has no ties to how someone acts, no conditions, no you have to do this or you can't do this, that's true friendship. And I really call, again, bull if someone says they don't have room for another friend in their life. Like, that's really sad, actually. And it's not about creating such a massive following on Facebook and having all these friends and counting your friends and followers. No, it's about, like, in all honesty, I'll never have enough friends, because everyone adds to my life. I want a garden of different blossoms, of different varieties, rather than one particular friend. We need so much in our life. And again, deepen that bullpen of people that you can draw on and learn from and have fun with and explore life with. It's such an amazing thing. Never close yourself off from creating connections. That's the pulse of humanity, is creating a connection. So I encourage you to step out of your comfort zone. If you've ever said, I don't want any more friends, I'm good, you've got to ask yourself, why? Are you scared? And it's okay to be scared, but then you've got to push through that fear. It's not okay to sit there and exclude others from your life because you're scared. What if they're having a tough time and just need one person to reach their hand out and say, hey, you can come in my circle. I'm not going to exclude. And you know what? So what if I'm scared? So what if you hurt me? I'm going to be open to a possibility of connection. And that's just such an amazing thing. So if you're wanting more connections and friendships, start with being the friend that you would like. Are you that friend that you want? Be that friend to anyone that you come in contact with. Be that person. And also, don't be so self-reliant on somebody else to give you joy, to give you connection, to give you friendship, to give you love, to give you companionship where you're not lonely. Be your best friend. And I promise you, the moment you start being your best friend and view yourself as your best friend, it will open up pathways for other people to just come into your life. And they're going to see the genuine, authentic you because you're working on yourself, and people are attracted to that when you raise that vibration. Have you ever heard of that phrase, your vibe attracts your tribe? If you're closed off, you're not going to attract any true friendships or connections. So that's such an amazing thing and a good point to always focus on. If you're always, saying, I could look for another friend, be that friend to other people. And I promise you, it will open up so many other opportunities for you. I came here to England not knowing anybody. I put my kid into school, not knowing a single person in the school. My husband and I knew no one else here other than each other. And within a few moments, because I was in the right place in my life of being a friend to myself, that it just created such amazing friendships in 4 months in England. People that I will be friends with for such a long time, and they will hold such a close place in my heart because we created such a deep connection, layer by layer, talk by talk, and it's just been an amazing, amazing process. So I really encourage people to just start to exploring friendships, exploring connections, playing with that, flirting with life, and allowing yourself to be happy, even if it's alone for a time period. It's all about creating even a connection with yourself. And it will be amazing about who will come across your path when you're open to that. And also give vulnerability. Again, that is such an amazing thing to do, is just give yourself vulnerability and honesty and give it to others. And allow people to confide in you and allow yourself to confide in them and build. And build this generation of women and men supporting each other and creating friendships and not excluding, but including. And you'll never know who will be adding to your life. Don't ever think you have to be this one person and have this one attraction. If people are millionaires, they think they just need to be around millionaires that, build up their business and their profile. And I find that quite shallow because you don't know who will add value to your life. Don't discredit anyone. I learned something from everybody, from all different spheres, from all different cultures, from all different backgrounds, from different interests. And I want to learn and grow with everybody that's in my circle. And I keep expanding because love is the answer. Love myself, love others, and you'll never be alone. You'll always have a friend with yourself if you're truly in tune and in love with yourself. So really encourage you guys to put people in the friend zone. Put yourself in that friend zone. Make a list of what you like in a friend. Are you that type of friend? Or are you missing the mark a little bit? And create that personal growth for yourself. And I promise you, you'll never be alone. You'll always have that friendship with yourself and with budding friendships down the road as well. So recapping what we covered today, we are talking about getting into the friend zone, that it's not a negative connotation when you want to create deep connections and true friendships, and creating friends as adults, trying different things, pushing yourself in different limits and different scenarios that maybe you wouldn't have done before, to meet different people and create a great connection with anyone. Don't have a judgment or preconception of what people will look like in that friendship. You never know who can add to your life and add value. Let's get reflective surrounding our fears around friendships and creating connections and being vulnerable, and just, be real and own it. None of us are perfect. Be real. I encourage you to do that today, to create more connections, because that is the pulse of humanity. So that's it for this week. If you enjoyed this podcast and want to get a hold of me, maybe you want to be a guest on my show, you want to learn about my coaching programs or purchase my book, Heroine, please visit blaisehunter.com, or all my social media handles are at Blaise the Trail, BLAISE the Trail. And I can't wait to have another conversation with you guys, and stay tuned for more upcoming episodes. So that's it for this week. Challenge yourself to take the lead on your life, be vulnerable and lean into the difficulties, and be reflective so we can rise up as the heroes of our lives, and let us breathe fire together. Thanks for listening. I'm Blaise Hunter.
You've been listening to Blaise the Trail with Blaise Hunter. To learn more about how you can breathe fire and unleash the hero within, or to listen to past episodes, visit blaisehunter.com.